Check.
Good.
Tick, 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 tick. Boom. Go, Suj.
Cool. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. Correspondence week. We keep soldiering on, James. And today, who do we have with us in this episode?
No, did you actually press record? Because
Yes,
I never heard the. This video is now
I'm in a
recording.
different Zoom account. It hasn't got the alert set
Oh,
up.
I see.
Don't
So you
worry,
got
I'm
me
on it.
like really unprepared there.
Don't
Changing
worry.
the script halfway through. That's gonna look really weird now.
All good.
Right, we are joined today by our Wolves correspondent, Bradley Parker at Parker_Bradley, who we just had a little offline chat because I feel like I should say this now. We're recording this about 7 days ahead of release, and we've just been talking about Matt Doherty. or how do you pronounce
James,
it, Bradley?
Pronounce it right, please.
Oh, we pronounced it Doherty.
Doherty.
That's probably our accent, though.
I'm going to tell you my feelings now, which are 7 days out of date by the time you hear this, which is I cannot possibly understand for the life of me why Matt Doherty would sign for Tottenham from Wolves. I have heard no comments from any source that I trust that this deal is on, although at the time of recording, it's all over Twitter. But for the benefit of this podcast, I'm going to assume he stays with you, mate, although we can talk about the possibilities if he wasn't there. I mean, does it make any sense to you, mate?
No, it don't make no sense. The West Midlands press don't seem to be reporting on it either, really. There's not like any like what the main media's doing. They're not acting like anything's bothered.
Doesn't make any sense to me. How important is he to you?
Vital. Oh, vital. I mean, he plays every match pretty much. I mean, he was injured at the start of this season, which while Traore sort of tested him at right wing back, and you could tell there's a massive difference. Some Wolves fans have got a weird thing where they say he can't really defend that well, and I can't really understand it.
Oh, well, that's all right. I'm used to that with Aurier, mate. So
he was one of the very first names in my team sheet when I saw his price at 6 million, and he hasn't budged. Yeah, he hasn't left, and I just don't see how he will leave. He's really, really good value. I mean, 9 points last season, was it? Seems just
I think he was the best outside the Liverpool through. So
yeah.
That speaks for itself.
Remember all the matches that he missed at the start of the season with, like you just mentioned, injury. It could easily have topped 200 points.
You got it in him.
I'm fairly certain I'll start with him as long as he's a Wolves player, by the way. Asterisks there. I just think he's outstanding value. I genuinely could not believe that he didn't get a price rise. I don't know if it's it's Wolves, they're not established Big Six club, if that's the reason for why he's not gone up in price. He's done the same as what he did before, and people were still buying him at 6.4, 6.5 last season at the end when he's battering it. He's Wolves' highest scorer in lockdown, scored 3 more FPL points than Jimenez during that period. Wolves were the best side during that period for expected goals conceded. Admittedly, possibly to the detriment of some of the offensive stuff, but good side defensively under these conditions, we suspected that they might be. It's just a no-brainer. And he's like second for most chances created after Trent for a defender and stuff. For me, as long as he's a Wolves player, if he signed for Arsenal tomorrow, I don't know what I'd do. I don't know if I want a 6 million defender. For Wolves, yeah, I'm very interested in him. And I think because of Trent, a lot of people are going to skip it. Just think, oh, that's enough money to be putting in my defence. So Doherty gets left behind. But if you just break it down and compare to players, I mean, who would you rather have, Doherty or Mateus Pereira unproven from West Bromwich Albion around the corner? Pereira might be great, but Doherty, you know exactly what you're getting.
I think you say a lot might skip him. He's at 22.8% ownership at the time of recording, which is pretty decent. And there's a lot of people that are saying, look, I may as well get Vinagre on the other side at $1.5 million cheaper and still cover it off. He's still at 16% ownership. At 22%, I think there's a fair few that do have their eye on Doc.
Go on, Bradley. We saw you shaking your head at that because there's players you might be buying, isn't there, basically?
Yeah, I think he'll start the season left back. I'd be surprised if he didn't, but I'd be very shocked if Wolves didn't sign somebody to step in. Because he's still very young, and I think he hasn't had a full season of being a first teamer. So there's going to be a point where his form's going to drop. and it'd be ridiculous if you just left him in there floundering at his age, at the top level, getting done every week.
Would
He's
he get done every week?
To Gulam.
He's highly rated, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a good player, but there's going to be a time where his form is going to dip because he's prone still at the minute to defensive errors. Like when we was away to you, he just let Aurier cut in really easy for the goal.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff like that. Whereas Johnny, that doesn't happen. Johnny's criminally underrated in the Premier League, I think. I can't really think of any mistakes he makes.
Nah, solid player, good left, right foot, can play either side. Obviously plays the left-hand flank very well for you at the moment. Are we saying 2021? Is that what we're saying here?
Yeah, very bad.
Yeah, I think if you buy to sort of rotate with Vinagre or replace or understudy, then that's probably the end of Johnny further down the line as well, isn't it? Probably. Unless they would move. I don't see why they'd move Vinagre on.
I don't think they'll move him on. I think it's his chance to prove himself. He's sort of in between zone because he's always been. When he first came, he was Barry Douglas's understudy, and he had a little run in the team because Douglas was a bit fragile. Looks great in the Championship. Premier League in and out is fine, but we've not actually had to see him have a continued run in the side. And Johnny's too good to be let go of. I think that's why they're interested in older left backs. Like that Gulam
short-term fix.
Napoli. Yeah, he's about 30 and experienced.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That would make sense then if you're looking for short-term competition.
Yeah, I think it'll be short-term.
Because you seem to be getting linked with a lot of the same players at the moment in the sense they're either basically seem to be wing-backs or central midfielders, or in the case of Maitland-Niles is a name that's been mentioned a lot. It can obviously play either flank or central midfield. So you think that's probably for competition for places more than anything, or?
Yeah, we need a deeper squad. I mean, Nuno said it after the Sevilla match. He says we made mistakes last season with the transfers, which was interesting. I thought, because he doesn't really come out and say that much about that. And he says we had the same players pretty much from the last season's 11 to this one.
What do you think that's in relation to? Because very quietly with the likes of Neto and Prudence, it feels like the depth is coming along now.
It's on there in the wings, but up front we've only got Raul, unless he wants to put Jota there, but he doesn't, unless it's a pair. Wing backs, well, no, Johnny's injured. We've only got Vinagre. We've only got Doherty. We've got that young lad from Rochdale, Matheson.
He's 16-year-old boy. Yeah.
I think with his experience in senior football, I wouldn't be surprised if he's hanging around at least the squad. I'd put him above Burr. I'd have put him above Burr already, because at least he's played men's senior football at a physical level. Every time I watch Oscar Burr, I'm not really convinced he'll do it.
Has he got a price, Burr?
4 million.
He's priced at 4.5 million. Oh, sorry, 4 million. You're right. Yeah.
Matheson's not in it though. Matheson's not in it.
Because if Doherty did leave, then you can see people are going to put 2 and 2 together straight away. There, that'll be the next fad, wouldn't it? 4 million defender at Wolves. Mind you, be fucking good.
He'd be getting roasted. He'd be getting roasted every week.
See, the thing is, you're trying to develop as a football club, so you feel like, you need more depth. But then last year was a 14-month season, right? It was ridiculous. This year, you haven't got that problem. So your league form should benefit, you think, in theory. But then we always maintained you handled it better than probably anybody has in absolutely ages, in the sense that you couldn't really tell the difference. You couldn't think, I can tell Wolves played last Thursday, or I can tell Wolves are going to play this Thursday. Never once did I get that feeling about you watching you in games. So it does kind of make me think you don't need a bigger squad.
The rotation as well, James. Like there was the same team Thursdays and Sundays quite often. There was not as much rotation as you'll see from Man United or Arsenal or what have you. So the players were fit as well.
We'll never know what would have happened at the end, because obviously the Europa campaign obviously had to happen at the end. It would have been fascinating to see what would have happened, because I kind of held a belief that because it had gone on so long, i.e. you were playing in July and stuff and playing these strong teams, that I always felt that eventually it would probably catch up with you. And I really fancied you in Europe. I thought the 4 eggs would go in. You can't judge what happened. You conceded a fucking sloppy goal and got beat. Shit happens, right? I mean, it's their fucking trophy anyway. Hands on it. Was it 6 in 14 years or something? Seville have won it?
Wow.
Something like that.
That's mental. They've won the trophy the most times by like 3 now, I think. And 14 years ago, they'd never won it. Madness. Welcome to Jose Mourinho, Tottenham. This is it. This is my future, lads. Talk to me about the Mexican, Bradley, and where your thoughts are from an FPL perspective at the moment in terms of starting with him or not.
I wouldn't start with him. I'd start with Danny Ings, with the price being the same. Them first fixtures look way nicer for Ings. I think the way Southampton was playing it in the lockdown, I like the look of them going forward. They look like he'd probably get more. Ings might get more chances than Raul would at the minute, from what I've seen.
Did you just lock Danny Ings in? Because I did.
Danny Ings is in my team.
He was locked in. I was just curious as that I've heard much more talk around Ings than I have about Jimenez. The ownership numbers at the moment: 24% Ings, 22% Jimenez. The wider community has got one or the other. Most people have got one or the other, and it's fairly down the middle of which one they've gone with. I feel like Jimenez,
more than half have got none, is worth saying.
Yeah, true. I think Jimenez will be Mr. Consistent, a goal and a couple of bonus points most games, whereas Danny Ings has the potential to maybe be quite explosive in a couple of games and pick up more than one goal, but you may get more blanks from Danny Ings. But I'm going to go with Danny Ings this year, I think, for the start, just like you guys.
Bradley, before you say anything else, game weeks 3 to 7, West Ham, Fulham, Leeds, Newcastle, Palace. You're telling me you don't want Raul Jimenez in that period?
I want him then.
Oh, right, okay.
But to start,
2 weeks.
Danny Ings is all right. You can have both if you wanted.
Yes, it's something that you consider. You're then in and around about Martial's value if you want to take a little jump up, for example. I think, yeah, it's a reasonable suggestion. I wouldn't say to anybody, don't have both. I think that's very viable, actually.
Exactly.
And then you can always make the choice if you think, right, I've got one right, I've got one wrong. You can always downgrade or go up, whatever you need to do. But with him, Brad, are we ever bothered about the fixtures?
No.
Or is it something psychological that is Sheffield United first game?
It's just what I saw towards the end with the amount of chances we was creating wasn't as high as what I'd like. We seem to slow down a lot in tempo. We seem to get stuck in a trap of, I think, towards the end. Traore's playing, just give him the ball. We won't think about anything else. Until Podence come in the team.
Is that? Can I just ask on Traore? Is that how you feel as a fan? Do you think give him the ball? Is that your first thought? Like if Moutinho or Neves has got the ball, do you think as a fan now, I want you to get it to Traore straight away?
If there's a space to, I wouldn't necessarily.
What the players are going to think as well.
But they get too easy to spot. I think no.
It can be predictable, but it still doesn't make it any easier to stop him when he's running at you. He's just. I don't know about from an FPL point of view this season though. Last season he seemed, I definitely want to get Traore, and now he's a 6.5 million midfielder. There's other options.
I wouldn't. I think there's too much risk on the wings for Wolves. He could easily just dip in and out.
Yeah.
I think teams are going to shut him down a bit more. Well, from source, they'll just step on Neves and Moutinho or whoever's in midfield a lot quicker. They spread the ball or Cody. If they press Cody, Traore will see less of the ball.
That you're talking about them big diagonal balls, aren't you? From centre half, Cody really likes to look for that.
If you ever step on Cody, you got a good chance of stopping Wolves at the minute.
Okay, that's interesting. That the thing is, the price is still good, isn't it, Serge? 6.5. It's not. He's if you'd come in at 8 million or something, but actually 6.5, a million increase on what he did last year doesn't. It feels reasonable.
It's okay. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's a bit rich for my taste, but I think, you know what, I'm just thinking how many points did he score? But he
think that Maximan will be better.
130 points, and he didn't play that many minutes last year.
I think the more scary one on Traore is if you look at the numbers in restart, 2 assists. That's it.
The one that's more interesting is maybe even another Wolves asset. What thoughts on Jota's reclassification as a midfielder? He's 6.5 million. If you were playing 2 up top and he's one of them, but he's a midfielder, then we're always looking for a cheeky out of position, aren't we, to try and jump on top of. He might be more interesting if he's going to play, but I'd be interested in your thoughts on that.
He's got to get his form back and his confidence before you even touch him. He's got to show it first. I wouldn't go near him unless you see that spark that you've seen him play with sometimes. It looks like his confidence has gone a little bit.
Do you think that's potentially from belief behind him, whereas before, no matter the system in your first season when you come up, he kind of knew he was going to play, whether he was going to play left of Jimenez or he was going to play right up front with him. I think he had the belief from the manager, he knew he was going to play, whereas now, probably seen what Traore's done, Prudence and Neto in the squad, varying formations. So he knows that basically, if Dendoncker plays, it's free in midfield, then he's fighting with, four other players for one spot, and Traore's going to win one of them, and Jimenez is going to win the other. So that's probably the sort of thing that's going to knock his confidence, I would have thought. And it goes back to, do you actually want a bigger squad? Because when you list that depth like that, I think, yeah, great. I know what you're saying, cover the wide areas, cover central midfield a bit more. It's not easy to get a backup to players like Moutinho and Neves, mate.
I'm hoping Joe Daly's going to be, if they don't get one. He's looked okay from the little spells that he played before he got injured.
Tell us about him, because he's 4.5 million midfielder. Not a lot of people will be familiar with.
I'm not sure about it's a funny one because you got Dendoncker as well. It will be picked out of him straight away.
Nuno likes Dendoncker because he gives a different legs option, doesn't he? Essentially,
2 positions as well.
Yeah, he can play centre half as well. There's another one gives you cover in 2 areas. Where are you?
With Jota, I think with Jota, he stopped playing on instinct for me when I watch him. When the first 2 seasons, he was just electric when he got ball. He attacked people. He looked like he didn't really think about it too much. He just played a natural game. But now when he gets the ball, he seems to dwindle on it too long for me. And when he takes his shots, he's snatching. Whereas before, the Everton goal that he scored, the only goal he scored afterwards, he hit that first time.
Ball over the top, yeah, and he's away.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, yeah.
Like, snatched at a lot of shots this season.
A completely uncomparable player, but I know I've seen that happen with Dele Alli. For whatever reason, you stop playing on instinct and doing the things that you're really good at and trying different things. Dele's problem, as I've said numerous times, is that I think he started to believe he's a better footballer than what he actually is. I don't think that's the case with Jota. It sounds like he's overthinking things or too aware of tactical positions or something like that. That's restricted like that. Him.
Because he still managed to score 2 hat-tricks.
Well, it's probably the pressure as well. Even if he does start, he thinks, I'm going to be the first one fucking taken off here. Probably what he's thinking as well. So these little things won't out. And as you said to us a couple of times already, like Prudence, when he looks a good player, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he might be a good option at 5.5. I think he's got the shirt at the minute.
So would you see him playing sort of just left of Jimenez? Is that your thinking?
Yeah, the thing with Prudence, what I've liked, when he receives the ball, he receives it in the sort of in-between positions. Unlike Traore and Jota, he seems to see that pass. And I think he was our most fell player after the restart, I think, as well. He averages about 3 shots a match as well. So,
just looking here, he only played 244 minutes.
He looks very tidy. He looks dangerous player.
8 shots in that period is very good, by the way. But that would be the immediate concern for me. Why would I pay the 5.5 million for him for potential of might be amazing when I can have someone at Southampton in Armstrong or St. Maximin at Newcastle I know is going to play every week? That would probably be I think it would be you'd have to make a very strong case to go for him at the moment. But you saying you think he'll start is the sort of thing that's going to make a difference in my mind. The flip is, again, the first 2, Sheffield United, City, I think, well, I'll watch them and
theory set up
and make a decision.
Have a look.
Because it could just easily be Neto if he has a good pre-season. Well, we haven't got one. They're all on international duty and come back.
Yeah, well, you've only just finished, mate, fun. In fairness as well. The only thing with that is the watching and waiting on Wolves. Because of what those 2 first games are, it's not necessarily that you'll line up the same way in the 5 games that follow that. You have to be cautious with that sort of thing. There's differences. When I talk about viewing Chelsea for the first 2 games, for example, how they play against Brighton will probably be a good indicator for what they're going to do after playing Liverpool in game week 2. Whereas what Wolves do, because of the battles you had with Sheffield United last year, where they played well against you twice, in all honesty, mate.
Yeah.
Is probably you're going to go there. You know it's going to be a tight game, etc. Man City is what it is. You obviously beat them twice last year, so we know what you're capable of. But the way you set up in those 2 games doesn't dictate what you're going to do in the 5 games afterwards. So there's a risk with that as well. Are you intending to start with none then, Bradley? Is that your thinking at the moment?
I think I've not took Vinagre my squad yet, but I will. But I probably will start with none.
Well, even Doherty doesn't make his way into your squad.
I think we should stop talking about it.
Are you? Is that because you're going heavy in midfield, or you're looking to power in elsewhere?
It's the first 2 fixtures, I think.
Right. So it's a fixture-based decision more than a player-based decision.
Yeah, the fixtures afterwards, I'll probably will have a Wolves player. Probably defensively more so, I think.
My take on Doherty is, assuming he's a Wolves player, I definitely want him for those fixtures 3 to 7.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's not the transfer that I want to be making in game week 3. That's probably when I want to attack Manchester City after they play you, mate. That's what I want to be focusing on there. So I'd rather have it there. I discussed this with you last week, so you could quite comfortably see him keeping a clean sheet against Sheffield United, which in that fixture you nearly did, right? It was 0-0 till 93rd minute or whatever.
Oh,
did he score against Man City last year, Doherty?
Yeah, he scored the winning goal.
There you go. So he can get returns in those 2 fixtures. Yeah. I'd just go, if I wanted him, he's going in at the start. He's not the sort of one where I think, I'd like to buy him in game week 3. He's so consistent. He's an aerial threat in a set piece against any opposition as well, which I think when people think of Doherty's returns, they think so much about, he gets in the box from wide areas. He's probably your most threatening player at corners and stuff as well.
Yeah, he's very good in the air. People don't realise that.
Agreed. So, no, he'd just go in, mate. And trusting them defensively, because the one positive, in spite of the way he obviously finished for you, was disappointing. And I think it was only really disappointing because after you won at Villa, it felt like you could really grab towards the top 4. And then to end up with nothing was like, what the fuck? But defensively, probably bar the Arsenal game and 5 stopping minutes against Chelsea, you were so good defensively.
That Arsenal game was...
I'm not keen on talking about it either, to be very honest with you, mate.
That was bad. That was really bad. Sheffield one with a kick in the nuts.
I didn't enjoy watching it either, mate, because I'd just come to terms that Tottenham couldn't catch you in the league, so I obviously wanted you to win. But in hindsight, it was a good result for me, right? Oddly enough. What about likes of Bolly and that defensively, Patricio? Because we say how reliable you are defensively. These guys can be considered as well, right? I mean, I've not seen anybody mention Willy Bolly, for example. Admittedly, he's 5.5. Is it just the case you'd pay the extra for Doherty, or you'd go cheaper to Saiz, for example?
I wouldn't go to Saiz. I'm not sure exactly how nailed he is. Depends what we say.
There may be Cody's 5 million.
No, Cody is never an FPL option, mate.
No.
5 million?
The man would have a fucking if the man saw the halfway line, he'd have a nosebleed, mate.
Sure, but it's the same price as Saiz. You're not really buying Saiz for attacking returns, are you?
But then the other two, Saiz and Bolly, they will go up at set pieces and stuff. Cody doesn't even go up for set pieces, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking a couple of goals a season from either one of them, really. So.
Yeah, but you still want a couple of goals a season.
Yeah, true.
You want to feel like it's a possibility. There's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than having a fantasy asset outside your goalkeeper and knowing your man has got 0% of chance in of scoring. Because that's the best thing about fantasies when your players score goals.
But I suppose the point is, though, at 5 million, you'd take Cody over Saiz. If Brad, you're thinking that Saiz is not nailed, Cody definitely is.
Yeah, Cody is more nailed.
Would you take Cody over Dyer, Bradley?
From what I've seen personally, yeah.
Would you take Cody over Bellerin?
Quite different positions, though, don't they?
I'm not saying as in pick for you. I mean for FPL.
Oh, Bellerin.
Oh, no, listen, I know Connor Cody's a better player than Eric Dyer. That wasn't the question.
I thought that's what he's asking.
No, I'm asking for FPL, mate.
Oh, Dyer, FPL.
Right, yeah, cool. I love that
He
you
was
went
a near
natural to
post.
the. Is that, what do I want Eric Dyer for? We was looking for the swap, Bradley. Remember, right? So, yeah. So that's what my point is. You'd go Dyer over Cody for FPL.
Oh yeah,
Therefore,
yeah.
you'd go Bellerin over Cody as well, right? As a
Yeah.
different example.
Any
That's
5
the
million
point.
defender.
You're not going to pick Connor Cody as an FPL asset just because the fucker's nailed. You go and get Charlie Taylor at Burnley if that's what you want, right? For 0.5 cheaper and the potential of attacking returns. At least Saiz can potentially offer something.
And yellow cards.
Yeah, he does
He
like
loves
yellow
that.
card as well, in fairness. What about the two midfielders, mate? Moutinho and Neves. Can they be FPL options?
Mm-hmm. Only if you want an enabler. At least Neves will sometimes take a penalty or a free kick. Moutinho's all set corners. Very rarely scores. One goal this season, though.
They're obviously the same price as Prudence as well. So if you had to go in at that value, I presume you take the gamble on Prudence, would you?
Oh, yeah.
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 Interesting.
I find it really...
I'd rather gamble for that midfield price.
It's funny looking at the way that people have steamed into Wolves' assets. It very much just tells the same story they're talking about. It's like Doherty, 20 plus, Traore, surprisingly 18, Jimenez, 22, and then everyone else is very, very low ownership. And then Prudence that you're talking about here is like less than 1%, which is a lot less than even Neves and Moutinho, because he may not be flavour of the month, or nobody knows about him, because he only had so few minutes at the back end of last season and might step out. But it's one of those where the FPL options within Wolves are basically very obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously,
it's that attacking midfield area.
Yeah.
It's that attacking midfield area where something might come up.
Yeah, so it's a trivia question because it just looked. How many shots did Connor Cody have last season?
0.
Yeah. Genuinely. Saiz had 24.
24 shots. I'm impressed from a central defender.
That's what I'm saying. So at least there's a threat at the same price. You might as well get him, haven't you?
And minutes.
I wouldn't rule out, for me, if Doherty was unavailable for injury or whatever reason at the start, I wouldn't rule out myself looking at Saiz, actually. I'd feel stronger about him being a regular than you do, I think, Bradley. What's your thinking? Is it the development of Kilman, perhaps?
Perhaps. Or I know I'm looking at a left-sided centre-back. So that tells me he's not secure in his place. Because he was only a stopgap player anyway when Bolly got injured, but did well.
He did, in fairness. And obviously, Bolly coming back makes a massive difference to your defensive numbers. We know that as well. Not sure I'd want to pay the 5.5 million for him, though. No, Saiz actually could come back as an interesting one for me. I think I wouldn't rule him out now that you've completely put me off the Vinagre idea.
I put myself off it.
I think others who are unaware of the transfer rumours and are just thinking of, right, Johnny's out for 4 months, it makes complete sense. But, I mean, the suggestion here is that Wolves are going to add something to at least compete and rotate with him.
Yeah, it'd be naive
offer protection. Yeah, basically because of his age. Was he 20?
Yeah, just turned 21, I think. So...
What I see of him, he looks a good player, but I mean, exactly what you highlighted, the Aurea goal that we scored against you is so bad defensively. The sort of mistakes, like you said, Johnny and Doherty are just not going to make. So I can definitely understand why they're looking to add in now. What's your hopes this season, mate? Overall,
just to compete up there again, get back into Europe, but it depends on the transfer window, I think.
Is there a negative feeling at the moment for some reason about Wolves, just generally from the supporters?
I don't know how to describe it. It's like the need, like Nuno's called for the players. We've always got them in fairly quickly and they simulated quickly, but that's just not, like last season's transfer window was not very good. We got Catrone, he flopped, and then threw a Paddy because he wouldn't play Raul because he kept playing Raul, which is weird, but whatever.
Right, mate. Si, senor, ta-da.
In Italian media, he was moaning about it. I was like, what are you moaning for? What can you moan about? Then Jesus Vallejo, who was Spanish Titus Bramble.
I wasn't going to bring him up, mate, but now you've done it. Do you just want to talk about him a bit more? Because I know you love the guy massively.
Proper donkey.
If he was 4.0 and starting every week, would you buy him?
No.
Says a lot.
I look at my team with disgust. Oh my God. He was so piss weak. It was unbelievable. He said he's done well in the Bundesliga, and I can't believe it when I watch him. Just because that's physical.
I think, Bradley, to summarise, the fact that you're in no doubt that you would start with Danny Ings over Raul Jimenez speaks volumes at the moment. I think there's just, and it can change very quickly with a couple of results. Obviously, the not doing well in the Europa League, the way it finished, was gutting, and to not qualify at all for Europe has left a negative feeling around the club, and that can quickly translate to players, etc. You started badly last season, which I think Vallejo is probably a good explanation as part why, actually. But you'll be fine. If somebody, I would, in my opinion, I think you would, for someone who's part of the so-called Big Six, to me, you would be the biggest threat still.
Do you think so? Even ahead of Leicester?
Yeah.
Because I know you're saying, look, Wolves didn't get into Europe last year, but think about it. Next year, the Big Six are going to want to be, like, Arsenal are going to be looking to invest, and Tottenham as well, and want to be in the top six. Leicester are going to want to be in and around there. Southampton was so much improved second half of the season. Wolves are really good. Sheffield United are really good. Like, being in the top 10 in itself is going to take some work. And 7th or 8th, and let's say 7th is going to get Europe, is still going to be a challenge with the other teams as well. And it is hard because you play such good football, and it's such a good team to watch. And it is frustrating. I can imagine for some fans that you don't end up with Europe, but with the other teams and the standard of the other teams, that's got to be taken into account as well when you're kind of setting these expectations.
Can I say one thing on that, Suj, about they're good to watch? And I agree with that generally. They weren't during lockdown. It wasn't enjoyable to watch. It wasn't enjoyable to watch Wolves during that restart period, even when they won those first 3 games, bar probably 10 minutes away to West Ham, actually. It wasn't enjoyable at all. The Bournemouth game was rubbish. The Villa game was rubbish. You were shocking against Arsenal. I didn't watch the game at Chelsea last day. The Palace game, it was a very routine game. That wasn't your fault, in fairness. But actually, no, there was nothing particularly enjoyable that made me think, oh, great, Wolves are playing tonight. I really want to watch Wolves. Whereas, to be honest, going back to sort of last winter, you think those where you had City and Liverpool in quick succession, and you're thinking, fucking hell, them games at Molineux with the atmosphere stuff, they're going to give them a proper game. And they did in both games, right? Even the game at Anfield that you lost, right, with the stupid goal that got disallowed and stuff.
Gave them a good goal.
Yeah, they were good games. I feel, and I said this pre-restart, that I thought they'd be one of the teams that really suffered from an offensive perspective. But the flip of that is, I think it's even better for them defensively. And I think that a Wolves defensive asset should seriously be considered at the start of the season. If the Irishman is there and fit and available, it will definitely be him. But I would seriously consider still looking at others to fit one in, even with them difficult first 2 games.
Yeah, there we go. Brad, thanks so much for joining us, Bradley, for a rundown on Wolves. As always, for anybody that doesn't already follow Bradley, what are you doing? But you head over to Twitter at Parker_Bradley, where he'll be tweeting about anything to do with FPL, Wolves, and all of that kind of stuff. No doubt throughout the season. James, anything else to add?
Nah, thanks, Bradley. Good luck for the season. We got another one of his mates up next, Villa. He loves Villa as well.
keeping it in the Midlands as we have been, from Leicester to Wolves to Villa. And James, just for one last, remind me the Wolves defender you're going to get.
Fuck off, mate. The thing is, this is going to go out like in 7 days from when we record, 6 days. This could look so dated by the time we put it out. It will just be an amusing. Listen, do you know what? I hope it's fucking dated, mate.
And for all you listeners out there, to keep up to date with all the Correspondent Week podcasts that we're putting out, whether you're listening on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher, just make sure you're subscribed so that you get notified as soon as we publish those podcasts. And most importantly, stay safe. As always, ciao for now.
Thanks, Bradley. Cue music, please, man child.